Hi everybody, welcome to my channel, Life, Law, Bin. Hi everybody, welcome back to my channel. Today I have with me Elena Johnson. She is a future pupil barrister at Queen Elizabeth Building. And she was actually the past publicity officer and podcast host for the Association of Gray's Inn Students. So that was 2019 to 2020. And obviously she's done a fantastic job. I'm just hoping to maintain the standard now for 2020 to 2021, having recorded my first podcast 2 days ago. But Ellen is also a Gray's Inn residential scholar, and she is a Gray's Inn Edmund Davies scholar. So I brought her on the program today because she was a bar course student last year. So she's going to give us some invaluable insight on the bar course. And she's also an Inn of Court scholar. So she'll also give us some helpful tips on scholarship applications as well as pupillage applications. So Elena, I hope you're well, and we're going to get the ball rolling now.
Great.
Why did you choose? Yeah. Why did you choose to pursue a career at the bar?
I guess I first had the idea of becoming a barrister when we just did this careers test at school, and you like answer some questions about your personality, and I was about 14, I think, and it came up with barrister, and I just thought it sounded quite cool. And it just sort of stuck in my mind for quite a few years, and it just sort of evolved really. So everything I did, it somehow related to being a barrister. I realised that I really liked public speaking and advocacy and drama. I've had a lot of barristers are frustrated actors. And then I became interested in the law, and I just realised it combined all of those things really well, and I never came across a career that I wanted to do more than the bar. And then a law degree in itself really appealed to me. So I chose to apply for a law degree. I did my law degree, really enjoyed it. And yeah, to be honest, the idea of becoming a barrister was just something I've wanted to do since then, because it combined all of those things that I was interested in. And yeah, hopefully when I start next year, that'll all be right.
It definitely sounds as though it's going to all fall into place. Now, yeah, now we know that most of the time the bar course itself and the bar course itself can be quite expensive. It can be a financial strain on one's pocket. So I think students always are interested in getting to know more about the Inn of Court scholarship. And as I mentioned before, you're a residential scholar and you're a Gray's Inn Edmund Davies scholar. Could you tell us a little bit about those scholarships, and then give some helpful tips for those students who are thinking about applying for an Inn of Court scholarship?
Yeah, of course. So the Inns of Court are really, really devoted to preventing the expense of the bar course from putting students off. They want to ensure that people who want to do the bar course can do the bar course despite not being able to afford it without a scholarship. So the Inns of Court scholarships there are two stages to them. So the first stage, well, at least this is the case at Gray's Inn, I think it's the case at most of the others. So the first stage is related to merit. So they'll look at your application and they'll see if they think based on merits you should get a scholarship. And then the second stage, if you choose to apply for this stage, is the means test. So they will look at the people who have scholarships, look at their means and decide how much money they get from that. So there are some exceptions to that. So Gray's Inn, for example, has a few sort of top scholarships which have a certain amount attached to them, but in general that's how they work. So as you said, I was a residential scholar and I got a scholarship called the Edmund Davies Scholarship. Residential scholarship was an amazing and quite surreal experience. So Gray's Inn and Lincoln's Inn offer these scholarships. They're run slightly differently, but basically you are allowed to live in the inn for a year. And I don't know exactly how it works at Lincoln's, but Gray's Inn, all you have to do is pay for some utilities. So it comes to an absolutely minuscule amount for the whole year. And you live in central London in the inn, which is amazing. And yeah, like I said, really surreal. I still can't quite believe I was living there. So essentially, it's a really, really good experience. In my year, there were, I think, 14 of us. I'm not sure how many there are this year. But yeah, you get really, really involved in the life of the inn. Everyone's super friendly. You get to meet loads of different people. It's really, really cool. So that's the residential scholarship. The Edmund Davies scholarship is, so all of Gray's Inn scholarships are named, as far as I'm aware. I don't know if it's the same for all inns. So everyone who gets a scholarship has a name attached to it. So that was mine. Yeah, and as I said, it's that two-stage process. So first merit-based, and then afterwards it's means tested.
So for students who are thinking about applying for this scholarship, do you have any particular tips, any helpful tips for a successful application?
Yeah, so I think firstly, a lot of people applying for scholarships might overlook experiences which, although they don't immediately seem that relevant, are really, really relevant. So obviously legal experience is really important, your mini pupillages, your mooting, stuff like that, but they're really not the be all and end all by any means. Things like working as a waitress can really show good interpersonal skills. They show your ability to perhaps balance a part-time job with your studies. They show time management, they show commitment, they show hard work. They show maybe even a dedication to the bar, because maybe you had to do this job to earn enough money so that you could do a law degree, or maybe the BPTC or something like that. So really, really think about the experiences you have, all of the experiences you have, and how they might relate to your scholarship application. Inns of Court generally have on their website a selection criteria for Inns of Court scholarships, so things like commitment to the bar and resilience and integrity, those kind of things. So I think always have those at the top of your mind when you're planning out your applications. So once the way I did it is I wrote down all of my experiences, no matter how relevant or less relevant they seemed, and I connected them to all the different qualities that Gray's Inn was looking for, to ensure that I was providing evidence that I had each of those qualities, because you can't just state that you have it. Obviously, I guess think like a barrister. A barrister would make a point and then they'd use evidence to back it up and show that you can do that, because the form itself is a form of written advocacy. It's a way to show that you can write well and you can evidence your points. Then once you've done all of that, draft and redraft, because sadly it's always the case that your first draft is never going to be the best. Don't be afraid of making it perfect the first time, because it won't be. Just keep reading it. Start as early as you can so that you have time to leave some time in between drafts so you can spot things. The number of times that I thought a paragraph was fine and then I've gone to look at it the next day and I've duplicated words or something. It's so easy to do. So yeah, I think they're my main tips. And also, don't be afraid to show off. You're asking the inn to invest in you, to give you money, and in return you will be a good barrister, is the idea. So show them that if they give you money, you will be a good investment. And that's not the same as arrogance. I think it's very easy, especially for students from non-traditional backgrounds. I'm sort of from a non-traditional background myself. I'm first generation student, state school, that kind of thing. Don't be afraid to show off, because it's not the same as arrogance. It's a bit uncomfortable, but that's what they want you to do. That's the whole idea of the application. So yeah, go for it, be confident, show all your experiences off, I think is what I'd say, and keep redrafting.
Well, there you have it, folks. I think that was comprehensive, very comprehensive, and it's going to prove to be quite helpful for those looking to apply for scholarships. Now, let's talk a bit about the bar course experience. Being a bar course student myself, I know that it is quite grueling. It is quite challenging, but at the same time, it is rewarding. could you share your insight on your experience pursuing the bar? Because I know you've just completed it. Congratulations, by the way.
Thank you. Yeah, literally just. We got our results yesterday. So it was a slightly, obviously my experience was slightly different to the usual one because of COVID and because it was very drawn out. But there are still lots of things that would apply to people doing the bar course this year. I think it is a hard year. There's no doubt about that. It's tough. It's demanding for sure. So I think at the forefront of my advice would be make sure you look after yourself. I have really, really learned this year the importance of taking time off, making sure you're still socializing, making sure you're resting, looking after yourself, and making sure you don't let the bar course or pupillage applications or anything like that overwhelm you. So I think that's the first step. And it's very easy, especially when you're always with people, albeit at the moment on Zoom, who are also doing the bar course. It's very easy for everyone to ramp each other's stress up and to make it seem like it's the end of the world, but it's not. Everybody doing the bar course gets stressed. Everybody thinks, oh my goodness, I can't do this. You can, it will be fine. It's just, it can get a bit overwhelming, but it is more than manageable. So I think that's my first tip. Also, in terms of the bar course, I think you really need to think about what you want to get out of this year. So, for example, be realistic, I think. So I knew that this year I was doing the bar course, I was applying for pupillage, I was doing extracurricular things, and I knew this was the one and only time I would be living so centrally in London, and I wanted to make sure I enjoyed that rather than just sort of let it fly past. So I had all of those things to balance. So I knew from the outset that I wasn't going to aim for an outstanding. I knew I was aiming for a very competent, and because that was how I was going to make sure that I didn't get completely overwhelmed whilst doing all these other things. So know what you want out of the bar course, and maybe individual people really want an outstanding, or maybe they have other priorities, and that's completely fine. But think about what you personally want. As well as that, I think try to keep on top of things. And I think in order to keep on top of things, you have to abandon the idea of being perfect. Your notes can't always be perfect. Your classwork can't always be perfect. I think you really need to prioritize what needs the most focus at that given time. And sometimes it's the classwork, sometimes it's other things. Sometimes it's one topic over another because you have that exam coming up first, for example, or because you know that exam is more challenging than another exam. So really think about your priorities. I think that's I think that's a way to survive the bar course and make sure that you're relaxing and you're seeing friends as much as you can in the current climate. And be nice to yourself. I think be forgiving of yourself.
I think anyone listening who isn't on the bar course would just be thinking maybe to themselves, okay, those are almost, apparent points. You should be nice to yourself. You should take time off. But I only noticed the difference between obviously me moving from the LLB stage to the bar course stage. I recognize that, especially for the first month, I was just sitting at this table in the same spot, sometimes for 6 hours straight, just moving to get something to eat, but you're coming right back in front of your work to do it. And it can really make you feel as though you're going nuts. So I really think it is so important to actually carve that time during your day to find something that you really do like in order to keep your sanity.
Yeah.
So for me, I decided when I'm eating, because I love food, I will watch one of my favorite movies or one of my favorite series. I told myself I will not try to eat and type away at the computer or read something. So I think that point is something that a lot of the time we just see well-being as, all right, I'll take care of myself when this is over. But it's so important that we actually do focus on our self-care, because once we burn out, for lack of better terms, we can't do our best on the course.
No, it's true. You'll become exhausted, and then that doesn't help anyone.
Yeah, it's true. Given that the course is so grueling, I know even when I'm speaking to my counterparts, we all do find that sometimes it's an issue with time management, especially, coming on to the latter end of the year. We recognize that extracurricular activities are building up. For some of us that do the bar course alongside the LLM pro bono, we have schemes that we need to do as well. And we also need to be looking around to applying for pupillage. Some students even try to apply for mini pupillages at this time. Some of them are virtual. So do you have any tips at all on time management and, finding that time in your schedule to get all of these things done well?
Yeah, I mean, I remember this time last year. I won't pretend that I had everything under control. I was thinking, oh my goodness, I had a mini pupillage coming up in December. I was doing a show. Had my first exams coming up. I was also trying to keep on top of the other work for the exams. I was applying for other things. I was getting ready to apply for pupillage. It was, suddenly everything comes at once, and you think, how can I do this? I think firstly, you need to keep things in perspective. So again, when you're around, well, everybody on the bar course, almost everybody, sometimes you get the odd exception, which I don't really understand, but almost everyone on the bar course wants to be a barrister. Occasionally you'll meet people that go, actually, no, I don't want to do this anymore, but mostly you want to be a barrister. And so everybody will be talking about applying for pupillage. And when everybody's talking about something, it can get very stressful, and it can become this huge thing in your mind. It can feel like the end of the world, and everything rides on this. And perhaps if you're not applying for pupillage, if you're waiting till next year, or if you already have it, maybe it feels the same way, but for bar course results. And maybe you're like super worried about the exams themselves. So I think that the main thing to focus on is keep it in perspective. So what is the worst that happens? Maybe I don't get pupillage. In that case, you can always apply next year. You have many chances to apply. And when you do apply, you'll have even more experience you'll have learned from this time round. So you'll be in a better position. Maybe you don't pass an exam, you can resit the exam. It's okay. So I think that's not to say just lay back and you'll be fine, but I don't think anyone on the bar course has that attitude. So yeah, keep it in perspective for a start. Also, yeah, so it can get overwhelming. So I think I found it quite useful to write down everything I was doing, because there were some times, especially at the end of the day, when you think, oh my goodness, I've had this whole day and I'm still not on top of things. So write down everything that you're working on and figure out how you can fit things in. And you might have to sacrifice things. So maybe you're doing an extracurricular thing. Maybe there's a meeting that it would be quite helpful for you to attend, but it really doesn't matter if you attend it or not. Maybe you just shouldn't attend that. Or maybe there's a piece of work that doesn't go towards your BPTC, it's a bit of practice. And if your tutor's okay with that, maybe you can ask for a short extension. It's not shameful to do that. In fact, it's just quite practical. I mean, not to do it all the time, but sometimes it's quite essential. Or if you have a mini pupillage coming up, maybe look at the work that's due for that week so that you can get ahead on that, or ask for an extension or something like that so that you can build it around. So be practical, and again, be nice to yourself. No one on the bar course does things perfectly, and there were a couple of times, especially when things got really busy, where I was completing maybe like a short draft for class or something before the class, and my classes start at 9:30 in the morning, so that wasn't ideal. It happens. Everybody gets a bit overwhelmed. Everybody gets really busy. So don't be hard on yourself if that happens, because it does. But yeah, be practical. Look at what you're doing. Again, look at your priorities and figure out how you can fit these things in.
Again, very helpful advice. I'm going to apply some of that myself. But I do know for a fact that writing down things at least helps, because even if you don't accomplish everything for the day, you can easily look and see, well, hang on, I did do 6 out of 10. So that's really good.
Yeah,
you
exactly. And it stops things whirling around your head. I think things can feel a lot bigger if and get out of perspective if they're just constantly going around your head. But if you write them all down, you think actually that's just one thing, or I can do that time, or something like that. Yeah, that can be really helpful.
Definitely. In terms of preparing for the centralized bar course examinations, obviously most of us are seeing these as these big heavyweight exams that are coming against us, and we all want some kind of advice on how to approach it. Generally, the workload is sometimes if you think it's insurmountable, the amount of reading you have to do. So how do we, for lack of better terms, condense that reading, retain that information in order to apply it to the relevant scenarios that we will be faced with in the examination?
Yeah, so this is a very good question. I think one that every single bar student has when they get the white book and Blackstones and they see how big it is and they're like, how am I meant to know this? Yeah. So I think that the first tip is trust yourself. Like when you've got to this stage, you've got through so many exams, you know your revision technique and you know what works for you. Some people are very visual learners. Some people are learn by listening to things. Other people, I'm not one of these people, but other people can just read something again and again and again and it can go in their head. The way I work is flashcards. And when you're making flashcards, you do feel a bit like a GCSE student. But for me, it really does work. And you have to remember as well that these exams are very memory-based, much more memory-based than the exams I did undergrad, for example, which were very essay-based and very much using sort of case law and statutes to come to your own opinion. Your opinion, you're not making an argument in this, you're remembering things and you're applying it to the facts. So I think, yeah, tailor your revision technique to a memory-based exam. What I wish I did in hindsight, what I did towards the end of the year, which I wish I'd done earlier, was I got a couple of summary guides. So I know these can be quite expensive, so I don't know, but maybe the provider's library would buy a few copies. You could ask them, you could ask previous students if they have any that they're selling on cheaply or want to give away. But I think you shouldn't rely on these because they don't have everything and they do miss things out. But what they do is they help you to understand the basics. Because I think I don't know if you found this, but when you're reading the White Book and Blackstones, you can often read all of it and not actually know what it's talking about. And you can maybe you can lose the most important parts for all the detail because they are very wordily written. You do need that detail, but you need to start with the basics first. So what the revision guides do is they basically tell you what this section is about. They say this section is about Part 36 offers, and they'll give you a basic. So Part 36 offer is this, and these are the occasions when it's used, these are the exceptions. So you have a basic understanding. And then from that, you can use, say, the White Book in this case, to branch off and to add details from the White Book, so that now you actually know what the White Book is talking about and you can pick out the important parts because the revision guide has sort of directed you to that. That's what I wish I did. What I ended up doing was was sort of using the revision guides, using the White Book, and sort of doing a bit of a balance from that, because I didn't really discover the revision guides till quite late. But I think if you do that from quite early on, it's only November still, you've got plenty of time. If you do that from quite early on, you'll have a set of really good notes from the outset that you can then use for the actual exams. So personally, that's how I would do it. And yeah, trust yourself. Do past questions. They're very, very useful. Any past questions you can get your hands on because it helps you to apply the knowledge that you have. And don't get disheartened. When you first learn a topic and you do some mock questions, you'll get quite a few wrong because that's everyone does. But if you keep practicing, you'll be amazed how quickly you learn and how quickly they become easier. So yeah, they're my main tips, I think. Summary guides, but don't rely on them because you do need the extra detail. And yes, again, I keep saying it, but take breaks, look after yourself, be nice to yourself, and understand you're not going to get it straight away, but you will.
Do you happen to know the names of any of those summary guides?
Yeah, so I don't know, yeah, I personally used one by, what's her name? Virginia someone? I can't remember her surname. It was a book, that was for civil. I personally found that very good, but it's just my personal opinion. I know other people had one called Be Civil, and there's another one called It's Criminal. I didn't use those so much, other people did. And one of the law schools makes a good criminal textbook, like sort of summary textbook. That's good to give an overview. as I said, you can't rely on any of these, but they're good for for revision, and just for letting you see the wood for the trees, really. I'll ask around if you know anybody who did the bar course last year. Ask what they used. A lot of people you'll find have just covered summary books by this time in the year, so you can ask them as well. I say those are the main ones for me.
Definitely, and I think too, some people will just Google it or go on Amazon to see what Amazon has. So I don't think we will struggle. I don't think we'll struggle in tracking down those books to assist with revision. Lastly, let's talk a bit about pupillage applications. So we do know that some people will be applying for pupillage this year. And I think one of the burning questions is basically how do we go about putting stuff on the paper that reflects who we are, but still reflects that we are competent and we are capable to do the job. So we can start first with the written part of the application, and then we can discuss moving into the interview round.
Yep, sure thing. So in terms of the application, I would say abandon any ideas of writing the perfect application from the outset. The application you write in the beginning and the application you submit are going to be very, very different, but you can't get to the final result without writing a bit of a rubbish application to begin with. So draft it as early as you can, and then you can keep thinking about things. Actually, I say even before you start drafting. So as I said, it's only November, you've still got plenty of time. I think the first step should be see a careers advisor as soon as possible. So the careers advisor at ULaw, for example, was incredible. She helped me a lot. She can read something and evaluate it very, very quickly and very well. And so I went to go see her at the beginning of the year, and I said the kind of law I wanted to go into and my goals. And she looked at my CV and she pointed out things that were good to include, and she also pointed out areas that I was missing. And so I spent the next months filling out those areas. So I did a little bit of pro bono, I did vocalise, for example, I did another mini pupillage, some more mooting. She'll identify for you where you need to add things. So I think see somebody, every provider has a careers advisor, so see them as soon as you can. So then spend your time sort of filling out those gaps in your CV, and then I'll get to the point of writing. So in terms of writing, again, very similar to the scholarship application, write out everything that you've done, look at what sort of qualities a chambers would want and see how you can match those things. And they're the kind of qualities that all chambers want you to have. So obviously, perhaps ability to be an advocate, ability to put an argument together, integrity, that kind of thing. Also, really make sure you're tailoring your application to that specific chamber. So do your research, look on Chambers and Student. Maybe is there anyone in your inn who's a member of that chambers who can give an insight into it. Look at their recent news. So their news will show what sort of areas they're interested in. So maybe a particular junior or a QC is really directing the chambers in a particular direction towards a specialism. Are you interested in that? Really focus on that particular chambers, because they'll be able to tell if it's just a generic application you've submitted to a load of different people. So start with that, start drafting, show it to someone as soon as you can so you can get some feedback, and someone who'll be honest with you. I had lots of questions. People looked at my answers and just said, this isn't interesting, or this isn't really that relevant, or you have a much better experience you could have used. Somebody who will genuinely tell you what they think about your answer. And keep drafting, keep redrafting, and do not underestimate the importance, or how long it takes rather, to do the final edits. I know last year I thought, I've got them all written, I just need to copy and paste them into the forms and send them off. But without doubt, once you copy and paste them into the forms, you'll see something you don't like, you'll see a sentence you want to reword, then you'll have to go through and reword them all where you've used them somewhere else. So leave enough time to do that. Yes, and if you do it a bit at a time, if you do it gradually, it is manageable, it's okay. Yeah, it's a stressful experience, but it doesn't have to be the end of the world. And I think it's really important to remember, if you don't get it this year, you can apply again. It's not like there's your only chance. And if you do apply again, you have even more experience under your belt, and you have the experience of interviews. and you will know what to expect a lot more. So it will be fun. And I think keep remembering that.
Well, I really enjoyed this discussion. It really has helped me, and I will take your advice on board to apply to myself in order to ensure that I'm maintaining my sanity, as well as as well as preparing for any future applications. Elena, it was absolutely my pleasure
Oh,
inviting
great. It's
you
been really
onto the
great.
channel. Pardon me?
It's been really great to chat to you. Thanks for asking.
Yes, it's really my pleasure to invite you onto the channel, and I really, really do thank you for giving up your time to come today to have a chat
More
with
than
us.
happy.
And I'm sure that this discussion will be extremely beneficial for all bar course students. So thanks again, Elena,
Thanks
and
so much.
no worries. And we'll definitely see everyone else on our next video. See you later, guys.